So on your desks right now, you should have your notebooks and you should have this paper here. It's a booklet. You should have the blank side of that glued inside your notebooks. And hopefully if you didn't have the supplies, you were able to go to another desk to find them, or hopefully your friends shared with you as well. So if you've missed the last couple of days, this is a nice lesson to come back into because it's actually tying back to what we did with solving equations. And there are two types of forms we can write our lines, which is what we've been discussing for the last 2 days if you haven't been here. And the title of this note, or our goal for this, is looking at standard form to slope y-intercept form. We're going to see why slope y-intercept form is really important to have because we're going to eventually be graphing these by hand. So we want to be able to convert between standard form and slope form. So this first piece here, that is standard form. Standard form means that your first term, a of x, should always be positive, should not have a fraction, and you're always going to set your equation equal to 0. So ax means any number can be in front of a, plus by, any number can be in front of b, plus c, which is your constant on its own. Now, yesterday we discovered this equation here, which was y equals mx plus b. We call that version of a line, the equation of a line, we say that that is written in slope y-intercept form. Why is that? Because your m value is your slope, your b value here is your y-intercept. So we're going to be converting from one form back into the other. That will be our goal for today. Okay, so standard form to y equals mx plus b, which is, again, slope y-intercept form. So I've broken down the steps here into two. This one's actually kind of easy. And again, you've already done this. It says move your ax term to the other side by adding or subtracting. And we know that from solving equations because we are always going to perform the opposite. Step 2 will be divide everything by b. And again, remember, b is just a number. So if I write my standard form here, here's ax plus by plus c equals 0. That's standard form. Now this one example here, it's really, really specific. Instead of writing a, we wrote 2. Instead of writing b, we wrote -3. Instead of writing c, we wrote +7. So I'm going to do my first step here, move your ax term to the other side. What's my ax term? My ax term is 2x. So I'm going to take that 2x and I'm going to move it over to the other side. So it's going to become -3y equals -2 because it's the opposite. Now here we also have another term that we have to move over. I'm going to be taking this +7 and I'm also going to move it over. So that becomes -7. So that's our first step here. Move your ax term to the other side by adding or subtracting. And then I'm just going to write up here, and I'd like you to do the same. And your c term. So what's our goal here? Our goal here is to isolate for y. Okay, now I still haven't isolated for y here, because if I isolated for y, it would just say y equals, that's what I want it to be. So here, as my next step, I'm going to divide, so now I'm on step 2, divide everything by b. So what's my b term here? -3. So I'm going to divide by -3, divide by -3, divide by -3. Okay, what happens when I divide everything by -3? Well, these -3s, we know from our solving equations unit, they cancel out. So I'm left with y equals Now, if I look here, I have a negative on the top and a negative on the bottom. That actually turns into a positive. So I'm now going to write this as 2x over 3. I don't have to write plus because it's automatically implied when there is no negative sign that it means a plus sign. And similarly here, I'm going to take those two negatives and I'm going to write it as a plus 7 over 3. Okay, so now we have taken the standard form, which was the original question, and we've converted it into y equals mx plus b. So y equals 2 over 3x plus 7 over 3. No decimals are going to be in this, and you want to make sure that you always reduce when possible. So I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to identify the two important pieces, and this will help us tomorrow. My slope here is always the number attached to x. So what number is attached to x is 2/3, not x, just the number. B is my y-intercept, which is 7 over 3. So our whole goal is we want to be able to identify those two pieces. Slope-intercept form, I identify my slope, I identify my y-intercept. Okay, the next example we're going to do, it has 2x minus y equals 3. I'm going to show you two ways to do this problem. And again, whichever way you decide to do, you can do it. But I'd like you to write down both. So again, I want y by itself. So I'm going to take this ax term and move it to the other side, remembering that it becomes opposite. So I still have to write negative y equals, I'm going to write here 3 minus 2x. Because if you remember what I did in my solving equations unit, I said always write with the number that came first down, or always write the number that was there. So 3 was already there, write that first. Now I still don't have y by itself, so I can divide everything by b. What's my b value here? Negative 1, negative 1, negative 1. So what happens here? I have y, because these negatives cancel out. 3 divided by negative 1 gives me negative 3. These two negatives here give me a positive 2x. Now, it's not written in y equals mx plus b. I mean, it is, but it's not used to how we normally see it. We normally see it the 2x first and then followed by the negative 3, but that doesn't matter. It still means the same thing. I can still identify my slope here is 2 because that's the number attached to x. My y-intercept, which is my b, is the other number, that negative 3. So I have my m and I have my b. Okay, the other way you can do this, and some of you may have figured this out, I'm going to rewrite the equation down here. So I originally had 2x minus y equals 3. Whenever you have a minus y, what I could have done is I could have moved that y over and this 3 over. So it would look something like this. 2x, when I take this 3 over, it becomes minus 3 equals positive y. That is also in y equals mx plus b form. My slope here is still 2 because that's the number attached to x. My b here is still negative 3 because that's the number on its own. It's that constant. So again, you can pick which way you want to do it. If you like keeping y on the left-hand side, then by all means, please keep it on the left-hand side. Just you have to remember to divide by negative 1 up at the top. Okay, and then the last example that we're going to look at here is this one. So again, I want to move my ax term over. What does that mean? Just the term with the x in it. So I take this 2x, and I'm going to move it over. I have another thing I want to move over, which is the positive 10, and I'm going to move that over there. So what will I write? Again, be careful here. Negative 5y, because that's what's here, is equal to negative 2x minus 10. Again, I want to get y by itself, so I divide everything by -5, -5, -5. And yes, I do want it done individually, do it to each part. I know we said sometimes you can just write one big line and do divided by -5. I want you to divide every term by -5. So -5 divided by -5, that gives me y. I can't simplify this anymore, but I can take these two negatives and make it into a positive, 2 over 5x. And again, I can actually take this. I have two negatives, which give me a positive. And if I were to put into my calculator 10 divided by 5, that gives me 2. And again, if you just so you can see here, I could have done this another way, and I'll just show you here. Again, my original equation was 2x minus 5y plus 10 equals 0. I could have, again, because this is a negative 5y, so you just got to be careful, I could take this all over and write 2x plus 10 equals 5y. And then I could have divided everything by 5. 5's cancel out. And then I still have 2x over 5 plus 2. Either way will work. You pick whichever way you want to do. Just make sure you always remember your opposite operations. Again, if I look here, if I have to identify my slope is always the number attached to x, not x, but the number. 2 over 5 is my slope. My y-intercept is b, the other number, which is 2. Okay, my next one. It says here, converting y equals mx plus b into standard form. Again, we've done this with solving equations. Get rid of any fraction by multiplying every term by the denominator, and we always have to remember ax must be positive. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to multiply both sides by 3, because my denominator is 3. So I'm going to take this times 3 times 3 times 3. So what do I get when I multiply 3 and y together? I get 3y is equal to, what happens to these 3's here? They cancel out. So what am I left with? If I just look, I'm left with 2x minus 15. Now, a must be positive. So here's my a term. A, again, is always the term that has the x to it. Now what I'm going to do to get this into standard form is I'm going to take this 3y over and I'm going to move it. So I'm going to write 0 equals 2x minus 3y minus 15. Okay, and what you will notice here is that is in standard form. So standard form can be written one of two ways. I'm just going to write it up here. So I have ax plus by is equal to, or plus c is equal to 0. That's one way you can have it. Or you could have it 0 equals ax plus by plus c, just plus c. Those are the two ways that we want our equation. So I need a 0 on one side of the equal sign and everything else on the other. No fractions, and your term with the x must be positive. Okay, the next one here, again, I look at some y equals mx plus b. And again, from here, you can tell what your slope is and what your y-intercept is. My slope, if you were to think about it right now, hopefully you would all say, is 5 over 8. And my y-intercept is positive 3. If I want to get this in standard form, step number 1 says multiply everything by 8, which is the denominator. I'm going to simplify this. So 8 times y gives me 8y is equal to, these 8's cancel out, so I can just look what's left. 5x plus 24. Again, I want my x term to be positive. It's positive over here, so I'm going to move everything over to that side. So I take that 8y and I move it over. So it becomes 0 equals 5x minus 8y, because it's the opposite, plus 24. Okay, so that's standard form, and you were completing everything to be able to do to convert between standard form and y equals mx plus b. If you haven't been here, I know some of you haven't been here on Tuesday or Wednesday. Right now you are going to work on the diagnostic assessments, which I gave out on Monday. I don't expect you, it's just an idea to as to where you are in this unit. I don't expect you to remember how to do this, so if you leave questions blank, that's okay. Work on it, do the best that you can. It needs to be handed in today. And then the rest of you, if you have done the diagnostic assessment, could you please work on the following worksheets that I have assigned? I'll take up any questions tomorrow, and then I will be checking your homework tomorrow.